does it work? So when you're using GenderMag, you start by picking a persona. I'm going to pick Abby. Check mark. Okay, I'm done with that. Now, the next thing you do is in whatever tool you're going to be imagining, going to be working with, you pick a use case or a scenario. So I'm going to be working with this tool. This is what I want to evaluate. Now, this is like a Google map for inside a physical bookstore. Some students in one of my classes wrote it. And so we're going to pretend that those students are here in this room and they want to evaluate this app that they're building. And so they choose the scenario they care about, that they want to evaluate or use case. And for them, they're saying, what if Abby wants to sign science fiction books? So that's what we're going to evaluate. Okay, so now we've picked the persona and we've picked the use case or scenario. By the way, the version of this app we're looking at is a mock-up. Anything you can walk through will do. It can be an executing application, or it can just be drawings on the back of a napkin. But if you can walk through it, you can evaluate it. And the great thing is, the less mature it is, the more likely you are to be able to fix what you find cheaply. So the sooner the better. Okay. All right, so we've done steps 1 and 2. Now step 3 is obviously we're going to walk through that scenario and see how it's going to pan out using this tool. So it goes like this. So first, we turn to the developers. These are, remember, the students who built this app. And we say, developers, if Abby's trying to find science fiction books, what do you wish that she is hoping for in her head? And so the developers say, what we wish she would be hoping for, looking at this screen under these conditions, is where's a map? So that's what they're hoping that she wants to do. This is a sub-goal. Sub-goals are in the head. We don't do sub-goals with our fingers. We just do them in our heads. So, all right, that's what the developers said they were hoping for. Then we evaluators, the people using the method, say, well, will Abby have this sub-goal? Yes, no, maybe, and why? And we refer to her facets, her problem-solving styles, her motivations, her attitudes toward risk, well, all of those things, her learning style, everything. And we say yes, no, maybe, or why. We harvest everyone's opinion in the room, not just one person's. This is not a consensus of opinions, it's a union. We want all opinions of the evaluators. GenderMag is about inclusive software. The GenderMag method is an inclusive method, okay? Everybody's opinion counts. And we just write it all down. We don't have to make any decisions. We just write it all down. The really important thing is to get the reasons. So we've written down yeses and nos and maybes. Now what we do is we shove that sub-goal into her head. So even if she didn't have it before, now she has it. So we're saying, so now we turn again to the developers and we say, hey, developers, if Abby wants to see a map, what actions do you want her to do? Actions are in the fingers. Those are things, you do with your hands. You click on things, you scroll things. Well, maybe you do them with your eyes. You read things. Whatever action we want Abby to do, we ask the developers, if Abby wants to see that map, what do you want her to do? And the developers answered, bless their sweet little hearts, we want her to tap browse off. Okay, clearly these people needed an HCI class, okay? But anyway, that's what they said. Whatever, they don't have to be right. They just have to tell her what they want. And then all we have to do as evaluators is say, will Abby do this? Yes, no, maybe, and why? Again, we look at Abby's facets and answer the questions. Again, we gather everybody's opinion, the yeses and the nos and the maybes, write them all down. And then when we do that, we then go to the next screen and we make Abby hit that basically. So Abby has to push browse off now. Then we go to the next screen, which I'm not showing you. And when we get to the next screen, we say, if Abby does that, will she see progress? Yes, no, maybe, and why? Okay, And that's it. You just walk through the whole scenario until it's done with every sub-goal and every action until you've completed it. And all those things you just wrote down, that's your inclusivity bug report. And so if you had some no's or some maybes, you've got potential problems on those features you just looked at. And you can triage them the same you would as any bug. You can put them into your bug tracking system like Jira or whatever you use with high priority or showstopper, or maybe someday if we have time. So that's up to you as the developers of the system, what you want to do with those bugs, just as it would be on any bug report you received. Okay, makes sense? So what you would do is you would turn to Abby in order to answer these questions according to, well, let's just get to know Abby. I think I've got her on the next slide. Let's see here. Okay, behind Abby and Tim, all right, or behind the, yeah, let's just do it. Here's Abby. You've got a printout of an Abby as well, but right now we can just look at the screen. Now, the first thing I don't want you to read this right now. Do not read, only listen. Okay, and look. All right, first thing I want you to notice is it fits on one screen. So if you've run across a persona before, you've maybe seen them go on for pages and pages and pages. Well, this one, these are intended to be very practical for really busy developers. So it has to fit on one screen, and it's got bullets and boldface and underlines so that people know exactly what's important. So that's the first thing I want you to notice. Abby is, of course, a fake person. It represents a slice of people. Okay, Tim is another fake person, and Pat is a third fake person. And in a minute, you'll see where these where these things came from. Second thing to notice: there's a top half and a bottom half. The top half is almost entirely customizable. The bottom half you can't touch. So the bottom half is Abby's facets. These are what define Abby. The top half are things that relates to Abby's background. So for example, we made Abby an accountant, but Abby could be a truck driver if what you're evaluating is dispatching software. Or Abby could be a teacher if you're evaluating CS education software. Or Abby could be a student if you're evaluating your course registration systems. Or Abby could be an artist if you're evaluating computer-aided art. Okay, so you give Abby the right job title, the right age, the right location, the right picture, the right hobbies, the right educational background for whatever software you're trying to target. These are basically your demographics for your target. Okay, the bottom you can't touch. These are Abby's problem-solving styles. If you don't like these, switch to Pat or Tim. Okay. Okay, so let's look at one of these facets. Attitude toward risk. Abby is risk averse. Abby rarely has spare time, so she's risk averse about using unfamiliar technologies that might need her to spend extra time on them. This is not about her attitude toward familiar technologies. She's fine with those. This is about unfamiliar technologies that she hasn't used before. And she does not like wasting time on something that's not going to pan out. Okay. So let's look at some data behind risk. Now, all of our facets are backed by at least 5 independent empirical studies, but I'm not showing you 5, I'm only showing you 1. This is a fairly recent one. The blue are the men, the yellow are the women. Unfortunately, the company that collected these only collected data on men and women. Those were the only genders that they got. So the first thing I want you to notice, this will remind you of the height graph, is how much overlap there is between these two genders. So look at all these similarities between the men and the women. Okay, by the way, I think there were about 1,000 people in this particular sample. The second thing to notice is, look how different the statistical distributions are. So here again, we have the men skewing in one direction, the women skewing in the other, and we have these statistical differences. So when we talk about these distribution differences, so when we talk about statistical differences, this is where they're coming from, okay? Tim's job as a persona is to look out for the interests of all of the risk-tolerant people, no matter what their gender. Abby's job as a persona is to look out for the interests of all of these risk-averse people, regardless of their gender. And the Pat's job is to take care of the interests of all these people in the middle. The theory is if you can make a feature work for this side of the spectrum, the most risk tolerant, and at the same time, same feature, work also for risk averse people, then you've got everybody in between. Okay? That's the key. Now, I've added a vertical line. Suppose, hypothetically, that your technology only worked for people on this side of the line. Well, guess what? It does. Okay? In most cases, the Tims are who technologists designed for. Okay? In that case, how many men are being excluded from that software, from using that software successfully or effectively? A little over half. How many women? 3/4. This is why taking care of things that are not cognitively inclusive also helps make things more gender inclusive. So how pervasive are these biases? Here's data from 17 real-world software products. Now, these people used GenderMag themselves. We didn't do it. They did it. But they let us watch. The lowest number of features, so they did these GenderMag walkthroughs, just like I showed you, and they counted up how many features had gender inclusivity bias bugs that they themselves found using the GenderMag method. The lowest percent was 12%. What that means is 12% of the features they looked at through that walkthrough, they found gender bias bugs. The highest average was what? Anybody read this? What's that little number? What's that say? 100%. Every single feature they looked at, they found a problem. So what do you think about that? Is that bad? Well, maybe, but as it happens, it was also good because that particular product was just in mock-up stage. They had only spent 2 days building that interface on PowerPoint. And when they found that, they didn't waste a dime implementing it. They knew right then and there to throw it out the window and start over. Well, it was still cheap to do that, rather than fielding dozens and dozens and hundreds and thousands of maintenance requests and support requests and feature revisions and all of that expensive stuff down the road. The average was 1 out of 3. I was really blown away the first time I saw numbers like this. Actually, it's probably higher than that. 1 out of 3 soft features that these people looked at, they found gender bias bugs. These are over the hood. These are in workflows and things like risk and motivations and information processing style. Okay, 1 out of 3, really pervasive. Now, what happens when you take these out? This is one of my favorite graphs ever. So this is a Microsoft product, and they allow us to say that. They even allow us to name the product and write a paper about it. So what happened is they had this product that had been out in the real world for at least 4 or 5 years. And they did a GenderMag evaluation and found a whole bunch of errors. And then they did an empirical study, and they put half their participants in the original product. Remember, that was out there, a mature product. And women failed the tasks that represented the 5 major use cases over twice as often as the men. But in the version that they debugged using GenderMag, everybody's failure rates went down and the gender gap completely disappeared. This is curb cuts territory. This is better technology for everyone. Okay. Okay, so what do fixes like this look like? So I'm going to show you some fixes in OSU's academic IT system. So the business, shall we say, the business technology side of OSU, the people who maintain the class registration systems and all of that stuff, they've been seriously using GenderMag, which makes me very happy. And so one of the systems they ran it on was their front end Canvas. Don't try to read this, it's a tiny little thing, but I just want to show you some things about it. So the first thing is this is the entire original web page, and all there is to notice here is there's practically nothing on it. Okay, don't you love it when you go to a web page and about all it really does is give you something to click on to go somewhere else, and it doesn't deliver any other content? How many of your university's pages look like this? Like hundreds? Yeah, so bad. All right, so if you bloat this up a little bit, the first thing you really notice is the only thing you can do here is sign on to Canvas. If you didn't already know anything about Canvas, you still don't. And so if you're a risk-averse person, do you really want to sign in to Canvas? Are you giving away your login to a bunch more email, lists and, opt-ins and notifications and all this crap when all you wanted to know was how the system works? Okay, so they found this using GenderMag. So what did they do about it? Okay, so this is the risk facet. It also is the motivations facet. I'm just trying to get something done. Okay, so what they did is they moved that sign in to a side panel. So they built a side panel that goes off to the side here. It's attached right here. And here's what it looks like. And so this is now over there. And in addition, there's all this information that you can get about Canvas before signing in. Kind of the meta comment here is people should not be making users sign in until there's a reason for users to sign in, like they have to enter data or they have to retrieve something confidential or, but just to find out how things work, it's ridiculous. How many of you have seen your students build things where the very first thing is you got to sign in? Yep. Okay, needlessly. Before, here's what information content there was before you signed in. This is the bottom here. This is the bottom of this. I'm about to blow up. So it had this meaningless name, Tool 1. I don't remember what exactly it said, but it didn't impart any information. Tool 1, Tool 2, none of these were useful names unless you already knew them. There was a newsletter, instructional speed dating, tech speed dating. That's it. That's all that's here. And learning opportunities, no events found. That's it. That's all the information you can get without signing in. Worthless. But here is this nice, big, informative panel that they built to fix that problem. And this is all about information processing style and also learning style. I want to be process oriented and I like complete comprehensive information, not just little snippets you're sort of tossing my way. So they built this and they have all kinds of meaningful categories arranged by common needs. New to OSU, here's how you get started. Here's how you do this. Using Canvas, here's how you do this. Using media, which is a piece inside of Canvas. Here's how you do this stuff. Where's the training? Okay, all this stuff is added. Now, this is awesome for Abby, but you Tims in the crowd might be saying, I don't want all this stuff. Well, they didn't forget the Tims. The whole point of inclusivity is to design for the whole spectrum, not just one end at the expense of the other. So the Tims get what they need too. They have a direct search and they have frequently asked questions. So they don't have to look at all this stuff if they don't want. They can just search for what they want or they can look it up here. Okay. And after they did this, their help requests went way down. So you know what? These were not big, expensive changes. These were easy, okay? So this is not like, oh my God, that's gonna be so hard. All you have to do is know what to look for. The changes are easy. So a little reminder, why are we doing this? There's lots of evidence that debiasing technology pays off. It pays off in tech quality. It pays off in supporting our students and our staff and our users, and even in the inclusivity climate itself. It pays off in web pages, software, education, academia, where our university and our society. Here's what one person said when they started using GenderMag. It changed the way I think. Oh, pitter patter. I wish I had more quotes like that. Please give me quotes like that. Okay, resources. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. GenderMag.org though is really the key for getting stuff.